Okay, here we are. Live. Hopefully everything's working. Now, one of the things I've done for this stream is I've reduced the delay time so I can get onto people's comments a lot faster. And yeah, hopefully that's going to work out and it's not going to reduce the quality too much. But I think that it should be fine. So yeah, welcome to the party, everyone. Thanks to those of you that showed up today. We'll show up later, and you know, all of the other people that are going to be watching this at a later date. I really do appreciate your attention. I'm crazy excited about today because I get to share with you what are literally my foremost favorite technologies of all time. So Laravel for the backend, Laravel Orion to do amazing stuff in terms of a RESTful API and build it like super fast. VuexORM, which allows us to like use Vuex as an object relational map. Because if you're like me and you hate using Vuex, you know, it's got its place and it's super important, of course, but if you find it annoying and a little bit like you're doing too much work, then you're going to love VuexORM. It basically builds a lot of extractions. I don't even write raw Vuex code anymore because VuexORM is able to cover it all for me. And of course, the phenomenal, mind-bogglingly wonderful Quasar framework, which will be the centerpiece for all of my live stream videos. So let's see where we left off. All right, so I've got my server running at the moment. Let's go to quasarcast.test. Oh, and we're getting nothing for now. I think it's because I need to make it a secure connection. And here we go. So last time we made it so that we could register, and we sort of like did all of the registration stuff behind the scenes here. So if I log out now, that turns into a sign up button. We should probably have a login button as well. So maybe that's one thing that I'll implement before I do anything else in this video. And that means that we're going to need a login form. So let's go ahead and say Quasar new component. And we'll call this login form. I think that's a pretty suitable name. And we'll jump into app. Oh, I can just search it to find it. Login form. And there we go. Let's steal some stuff from register form. So register form. Hide a few things here so we got some space. Maybe in this episode I can fix some of these crappy linting problems. I don't know what's going on there. All right, so let's steal a few things from here. In fact, I'm probably just going to steal that entire page. Yeah, let's do that. And let's go ahead and just paste it in here, and I can change things as I need to. So we're going to need a name and an email address. Actually, we won't need a name, just an email address and a password. We won't need a password confirm. And let's scroll up and sort of knock these things out one at a time. Okay, so all of the error handling is probably going to be super similar, so I can leave most of that. Fetching the CSRF token, we'll need to do that as well. Yeah, cool. So let's change the name of this to login now. And if I come to the top here, we can start working on the form itself. Maybe there's something I can do about this linter. I think it's got something to do with having this veta config file. Let's see what happens if I delete that. I don't think it was actually doing much anyway. Save it. No. Let's go back to that login form. Oh, bugger. I'm going to try closing this and then jumping back into it again. If not, I'm just going to have to deal with those squiggly lines. And cross our fingers. Looks like it's okay. I think so. And let's just check if I screw up the formatting. Yeah, it's going to fix it. Okay, so we're going to need silly errors, but like I'll deal with that later on. All right, so instead of, we're not going to need name anymore because this is a login form. We will need email. So there we've got the email. All of that error handling stuff will probably remain the same as it is with register. We need the password as well. Once again, all that other stuff is probably going to be the exact same. So let's save that, and that's going to be our login form. We'll have to start our server up again. I just ate a lot of food, so I'm like burping under my breath here. But you didn't need to know that. All right, coming down here. Let's see if there's anything else we need to change. So input props, I want to keep that. For those of you that missed the last episode, basically I have this input props that you can pass through, and then I put them directly onto the inputs because a lot of the properties for inputs are going to be the exact same. So I can change them from the outside. I just find that a little bit easier to handle. And it means you can have login forms that are styled a little bit differently depending on the context that they're in. All right, so that's going to be the same. Login, we fetch the CSRF token. We dealt with this last time. Then we, instead of handle register, that's going to be handle login. Okay, so then we use the form to come over here and then log in. We do a post request. Instead of register URL, let's change that to login URL. And that means, let me just come in here and say cd and, oh, you know what? Let's just use the terminal over here. I just want to check the URL for login. I'm pretty sure it's just literally /login. So let's say art, route, list, and we'll make that condensed or compacted, whatever it means. All right, so we've got login here. Yes, that's the URL that we need. So what we're going to do now is create an environment variable for our login URL. That's our register URL. This is our login URL. And this just means that it's super easy to change. So we'll change that from register to login. We'll have to restart the server because when you change environment variables, you need to restart your Quasar server. Okay, now coming back here. So we're going to hit the login URL with the form data. If it's successful, we're going to emit success, but we won't just emit success. We'll also send through the response as well, just in case we want to actually use that response. What I might actually do, though, eventually is move this login onto the user class. So then I can just do something like this. User.login. I reckon that would be nice. Or maybe we could have an auth class, like this.$auth.login. I don't know. Really, you could have both. I think I'll just put it on the user class in this video. All right, so looks like everything's fine there. Next, we want to have a button for logging in. And in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and create another component. So let's say Quasar new component, and we'll call this login button. All right, so let's jump into that component. And if you remember last time, we have this B dialog button. Well, let's try that again. B dialog button. Yeah, sometimes my importer doesn't really work right when I'm using oh no, that worked right. Sometimes it doesn't though when I'm using Vetter. So I don't even know how to say that. Vetter. All right, so anyway, we have this B dialog button, and basically what this does is anything that's thrown within this button means that when the button is clicked, the contents within it will be open. It's a super handy pattern that I use all the time. So let's bind our adders here so that we can actually style this button. And now we can actually throw the form in. So let's say q-car-section, and then we'll throw in there the form, which was called login form. There we go. Did that register correctly? Looks like it did. Nice. And I think we can actually start using that now. So let's go to the main layout. And here we have the register button. And next to that register button, we basically want to say if there's no session user, show the register button. And if there's no session user, I also want you to show the login button. So I think just login, is that what people say these days? Login, authentic, no, it's definitely login. All right, and we change that to login button. Check that that was imported properly. Yeah, I want to change that a little bit to use the alias. Here we go. Now I'm getting that weird sort of messing up stuff. Oh, wait, that didn't look right either. C for components. Cool. Now we should actually have that login button. And there we go, we do. So let's go to login button again. And I might want to style this slightly differently. So how about instead of outlined, we make it unelevated. I think I'm going to want a little bit of margin. Actually, which should go first, sign up or login? I think sign up on the left, login on the right. I don't know why, that just feels right to me. All right, and then we want to add a margin left, and we'll probably make that about medium. Maybe a bit smaller. How about we make it small? See what that looks like. Yeah, so we get our sign up button, or we've got our login button, and that's working. I didn't even change anything and it's working. That doesn't always happen. All right, so now we want to have it so that you can actually log in. Oh, by the way, we want to change that from that text from register to login. So let's go to login button. Why is it showing register there? Whoops, I've accidentally hard-coded it in here. So what we want to do is make it so we can have a toolbar title. So I've actually already done that there. And then that just passes through the toolbar title. All right, so now we want to have this dialog button with a toolbar-title equal to login. All right, so the dialog button accepts the toolbar title of login, and we also want to say show toolbar, I believe. And if I haven't implemented that, I do want to. So let's only show this v-if show toolbar. And yeah, because we've got that property coming through. I just never implemented the logic for it. So let's come back here. Sign up works. Login also works, and we get the word login now. Okay, what's next? Let's move along. Input-props is equal to, and let's set the input props to filled, I think. So let's make that true. Or was I using outlined? No, I'm using filled here. Do I like filled or outlined? Don't think about it too long. Make a decision. I like filled. All right, so let's set filled equal to true. And there we go. That's now filled. And we want to be able to add that, that button at the bottom as well. Actually, let's check if the login actually works. Oh, we don't have a button, so we can't even test it. All right, so now we want to have a button underneath here, q-button, and that's going to be our button that actually logs us in. So let's set a label for that equal to login. And there's that button there. And let's give it a class equal to full width. And I also want to set the color of that to probably primary. All right. And there we go. We've got that login button. It's looking beautiful, but it does absolutely nothing. So let's make it so it actually does something. When you click on that, we grab a reference to the login form. So here we're going to say ref is equal to login form. All right, so when we click on this, we grab a reference to the login form, and then we say login. However, that reference won't exist when we first create this component, so what we're actually going to have to do is turn that into a function like that. Save it, and now let's come into the login form, check that we have that login method, and we do. So now what's going to happen is when we click on this login button, we grab a reference to login form, and then we call the login method. So let's jump in there. And the login method is then going to fetch the CSRF token. If you don't know what that means, you'll probably have to watch the other live stream that I did. And then it's going to actually perform the login. Okay, so the CSRF token gives us a cookie so that we can actually log in safely. So then we make a post request to our login URL, which is an environment variable that I just set in here. So there it is, login URL. And then we take the response and we admit it on success so that we can actually do something with that response. So now that we're getting that success response, the next thing we want to do is actually hide the dialog. So how about this? What's the best way to do this? Should I model this? No, I wouldn't really model a button. So let's set a reference here to dialog button. I probably use references a lot more than the average coder, but I find them to be particularly useful for doing some abstractions. So when we get success here, so when we've successfully logged in, we are going to grab that dialog button, okay? But once again, we want to make sure that's a function, and we're going to call hide on it, okay? So grab the dialog button and call hide. Let's just check we actually have that hide method, and we do. Cool. Let's see if it all works. Refresh the page. I highly doubt that I nailed it the first run, but hey, you never know. Well, let's go log in. Oh my goodness. Made a login request. And we got a response back. Wow. Ha! Actually worked. First go. So now, when that is successful, we also want to make a request to get the user. So I'll show you what I mean. If we go to the register form, was it the register form? No, it was the register button. Yeah, what I'm doing here is I have a method here called getCurrentUser. And so what we're doing is when we've successfully registered, we go ahead and fetch the current user, and then that's automatically going to be, yeah, we can see here it's then inserted into the database. In fact, I think I've already abstracted that. User.js. Yeah, in my user.js file, we can just call session user like that. So let's go ahead and give that a try. Instead of get user, let's say I believe I can just say user. So let's import that. Yeah, there we go. It's been imported. $session user. And $ basically means that this is going to be a request. Okay, so was there anything I'm missing here? No, we didn't do anything there. So we just say user and then make sure that we get the session user. I'm not doing any error handling there, so I probably should, but I'll focus on that later on. So let's see if that works with the register button now. I'm going to open up API, say art tinker, user query, delete to delete all of the users, refresh the page, and now let's register and see if that still works. And it did. And as we can see, we fetched the user, which is why that's now showing that little L symbol there. So logging out, let's refresh the page again, delete all of the users again. Actually, no, I want to have that user so that I can actually log in. Yep. Okay, so now we'll log out. Man, this is so snappy. I love it. Refresh the page just in case something's gone janky. And now we want to be able to say login. And then when I press login, we want to, after it's logged in, we want to actually get the session user. All right, so let's go create. It's not create, it's login button. And then when we have success here, we can go ahead and call a method. In fact, let me do this. Why don't we just expose the user like this? Now I can say import user from model/user, because I'm pretty sure in the last video I created an alias for that. Yeah, I must have, because that's still compiling. And now the user is exposed, I can do this in the template. Now you might not want to do this, but I don't really mind doing stuff like this for if I've done a really good job abstracting things. So then I can say user.$session user to then fetch the user. And now you can just see it all there. Here's the login form. Here's what happens when it's successful. We hide the dialog and then we get the session user. So let's go ahead and check if that works. If it does, I'm probably going to chuck a party because that would be amazing. Nice! It all worked! And now it's showing up here as the user that's logged in. Man, I think that's so cool. We have a really nice login experience all figured out. Okay, next, what's the next thing I need to do? That was kind of a bit of a preamble. Now we want to decide on data structure for courses. All right, so behind the scenes, if we go to the site here, we've got courses. So that's a data structure there, which is courses. And then inside of that, we've got lessons as well. So these are all the different lessons. So of course, a course, has many lessons. So let's figure out how we're going to actually structure that. And I think I've done most of the work for myself here. Data. Yeah, because at the moment, I'm literally just creating like JSON objects in order to get all of this data. And that's one of the things I want to do now is move this to a backend so that I can start streamlining some of these tasks. It'll mean that things are a little bit slower unless I implement some sort of like a headless CMS with my backend, blah-de-blah-de-blah. So it might make things a little bit slower, but it's going to create a nicer experience. So we got categories as well here. I might not do that in this video. We might save that for a later video. All right, so key. Are we going to need a key? I don't know. Maybe rather than key, we can set that to slug. In fact, let's just copy all of this and come back into here. Yeah, and sort of use this as a bit of a playground for now figuring out what this data is going to look like. So let's make that JSON. Paste that in there. Maybe do a bit of formatting. Oh, the problem with this is I don't get formatting. Blah! To do all the formatting myself. Oh, all the hard work. Having to format everything myself. Okay. So, do we need a key for our course? So let's call this course data. Probably not. It's going to have an ID, so we're not actually going to need a key. But we might need a slug. So how about this? We have a slug, and we'll set that equal to, in this example, build take away a day. And this isn't going to be a key. This is going to be an ID, which might be, I don't know, 45. Okay, so we're going to have a title, and I will leave that as is. We want to have a color. So yes, I think I will assign a color to a course. A caption, yes, I think we will want a caption and an icon. Yeah, I think most of that data was correct. It's just the key that I wanted to get rid of. Now, can I get out of full screen here? Yeah, you know what? We're going to have to make the model anyway. So the next thing I want to do is go ahead and make that model. So let's say art make model, and we're going to call this model course, and we want to use all of the scaffolding tools that we have available to us. And let's just go through them one at a time. So first we have the model. So let's go to course.php. And let's say, I'm starting to use guarded now. I used to say fillable, but now let's say protected. Guarded is equal to nothing. Okay, none of these are going to be guarded because it really doesn't matter for the purpose of this project. All right, so we can now fill everything on the model. Let's go to the factory. So let's say course factory, and we can figure out the fields that we're going to have. So let's jump out of full screen here, whack that on the side, start hiding a few things, and take this out of full screen. Where is it? There we go. Whack that on the side, and now we can start deciding on what this is going to look like. So first of all, let's have an ID. I think that ID will automatically be set for us, so we don't actually need it. Slug, and let's make the slug this, what's it called? Faker. So then we're going to use faker to create a word. And that'll do for the slug. And now for the title, how about we have a sentence? And there we go. And then for the color, I think faker actually has colors as well. Yeah, there we go. But we want to use, I think I don't want to have like a random hex color. I think I'd rather just use Quasar's built-in color scheme. So how about this? How about we say collect, and then I throw in a bunch of colors like indigo, blue, orange, green, red, purple. That'll do. And then we can basically just choose one. I think there's like choose or random. Yeah. So that's just going to choose a random color from that list there. All right, moving on. We also want to have a caption. And once again, that's just going to be a sentence. So let's copy paste that. Weird formatting happened there. What next? We've got a caption, and then we want to have an icon. And I'll just set that to MDI-circle for now. So the icon set I use is the material design icon set. And if I have a shortcut for that, Control-Shift-Alt-I, and these are all of the icons available in it. It's like a massive, massive list. It's massive. All right, cool. So that's it for the factory. Let's go back into full screen. Full screen. Bring things back to normal and move on to the next thing. Next, we have the migration. So I'm going to Alt-click all of that. And then I'm going to copy it. And let's jump into our migrations. And then I'll come down here and just whack them in there. And let's see how much I can just get done for myself. Table, how about we say string, and then the name of the field, like that. Cool, and now we can start working on the details. So the slug is not going to be nullable. The title is not going to be nullable. The color will not be nullable. Oh, maybe it can be. Yeah. Oh no, how about we set a default to gray? Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Caption, I guess you can make that nullable. No, I kind of want to enforce it on myself. Make sure I always have a caption for my videos. Helps for things like SEO. And an icon, let's have a default for that. And we'll make that MDI-circle. Cool. All right, so that's the migration sorted. I don't think I need to do anything else besides that. So that looks good to me. Let's see if it migrates successfully. Migrate. Yep, it did. All right, what's next? We want to have a seeder. So this part's going to be really fast. Course seeder. And then we can just run. Oh, how do I do this? I'm going to remember how to do this again. I think you just put it in parentheses, new course course factory. Oh no, I'm thinking of something else. I'm thinking about the database seeder file. So we basically say course factory. No. That's not how you do it. You say course class. I don't know, course factory like that, I think. I can't actually remember how to do this. Laravel. Factories. And I think it's factory like, yeah, okay, there it is. You do it like that. So course factory, let's start off by making 5 of them, and then we'll just call create on that, which means it's going to create 5 for us. Might have to import that. Yep. All right, so we've done that. We've created the seeder. I think I accidentally imported the factory. Let's get rid of that. So now we actually want to go to database seeder, so that by default, that factory is called. And the way I like to do this is just by directly calling the factory. So let's say new course, directly calling the seeder. Seeder, and then I think I can just call run on that. Cool. So let's try this. Art, migrate, refresh to see if that works. Good. Now let's add the seed flag to see if it sees the database as well. And it does. So if I now go art tinker, in fact, let's use Tinkerwell for this. So I need to open the directory. Where's the directory to this? Code. Oh my gosh, so many projects, Luke. I forgot what I even called it. Oh, it's course. It's called Quasarcast. I think it's called Quasarcast. What? Why can't I see it? Oh, it's not in alphabetical order? Oh, all right, let's look for this. Quasarcast. All right, there it is. And we're going to jump into the API directory because this is Laravel stuff. And now let's say course first and see if that works. Yep, there we go. So we can see that we have actually got data sitting in there now. Sweet, good deal. What's next? We've done the seeder. So that's basically everything. I'm actually going to delete the controller because we're going to use Laravel Orion to handle the controller. So let's say courses controller, or it might be just course controller. Delete that file, and we're going to do it ourselves. All right, so that's it for the course. Let's do the same thing for a lesson now, and hopefully I can do things a little bit faster for you now that I've done it once before. All right, so lesson, we need to make sure that we have a structure for our data. So let's open this up here. We're actually going to want to go into courses. Let's have a look at one of these lessons. Oh no, that's not right. Index. Oh my gosh, everything I just did was for courses, I think. You know what? I think that's okay because all of that stuff looks like course-related stuff. Do you want a slug for the course? Yes, you do. Do you want, all right. Courses table. So what I've done here is, I've accidentally grabbed all the stuff for lesson-related data and used it to create the course. But slug, title, color, caption, this is all stuff I want on a course anyway. Actually, that does look like course-related data. Oh, I see. Okay, so yeah, I did do it right. That's the course-related stuff, and then this is the lesson-related stuff. All right, silly Lugu. Let's try this again. So now let's copy that. And we'll come down here. And now let's say lesson data, 1, 2, 3. This is going to be JSON. And just paste that straight in. So now I can tab that out. Cool. And now our lesson's got a short description. Why did I call it short description? Why can't I just call it description? So some of these have long descriptions. Yeah, I guess it makes sense to have a short description because it makes it easier for displaying like just part of the course. But maybe I just want to truncate the normal description. Yeah, I don't want to make too much work for myself. Okay, so let's do this. Let's say description, and we've got a title. That makes sense. We don't have want to have a key. This is just going to be an ID now, and that'll be, for example, I don't know, 67. Just like up here, we want to have a slug as well for our lesson. Description. That makes sense. Video embed ID. Video. So what I want to use is, behind the scenes, I often use this library, JavaScript. It's called like video URL parser or something like that. So let's look at the API for it, and I'm going to mimic that in my database so that everything's consistent. I'll show you what I mean. This is a really cool package. It allows you to pass all these different video types. And then you can send through the URL, and it'll give you the media type, ID, and provider. So it's got provider and ID. So what I'm going to do in the back end to mimic that API is have provider and provider ID. I'll show you what I mean. So let's come back into here, and instead of video embed, I'm going to say provider ID is what I'll use for that. But we also want to know the provider. So if it's Vimeo or if it's YouTube, we might do things a little bit differently. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm happy with that. So now a lesson can easily grab its video. Created at, yep, I'll definitely leave that in the database. And the length of the video. Do I need that? Yeah, it's nice to have the length of the video because there's then some fancy stuff that you can do with like jumping around the video and knowing when the video is about to end. So I can basically send an update on the back end saying, hey, this user has watched most of that video. All right, so we're going to keep that in there as well. That's all the data we need. So can I control click this? Yes. That should make it really easy to copy paste these fields. All right, sweet. That's really good news. So we can go ahead now and create all of those classes. I think I did that already. Yes, I did. So now we can jump into lesson.php and go through these one at a time. First of all, we want all of the fields to be fillable. So we're going to say protected, guarded, I think it is. Let's go back to course.php. Yeah, guarded is equal to an empty array. Okay, so that's that part done. Next, we want to go into the factory. So let's go to the lesson factory. And if I scroll down here, I can now paste all of these in and start doing whatever I need to do for dummy data. The ID is automatically set for us, so I don't need that. And let's come down here, do a bit of IDE magic and say this faker, and then figure out how we're going to grab that data for each of these fields. Woo! Okay, so the title, we're just going to have a sentence. For the slug, I'm just going to have a word. This is all dummy data. It totally doesn't need to be done like perfectly. Let's have a sentence for the description. Now, for the provider ID, I'm actually going to use, what's the best way to do this? What is the best way to do this? Let's just make it so we only use YouTube. So what I'll do is I'll jump onto YouTube. You're going to see a bunch of South Park stuff because I like South Park videos in my recommended. It's always interesting to see what people get recommended to them. I also love watching gymnastics. I watched this video recently with, who's that gymnastics? I forgot her name, but she's this like amazing gymnast. Oh, Caitlin Owashi. And she does this phenomenal gymnastic routine. So now I get recommendations from her all the time, and I can't help but watch some of her stuff. She's like magical. Anyway, weird stuff that you didn't need to know about. All right. Oh, cool. This is me live right now. So next, let's just grab some sample videos, and I'm going to control click a couple of these. Pause that. There's my ugly mug. I shouldn't say that about myself. I am beautiful. This is a live stream, so I don't want that.
And we are back.
I think that's the video ID. Yep. All right, sorry. I did a little bit of a segue there. So now we want to say collect, and I'm going to have a whole bunch of video IDs, and we're just going to select one at random like this. All right, so let's grab that video ID, and let's grab that video ID. And let's grab one more video ID. All right, let's get... Now I can get rid of all of those tabs. I try and keep my tabs limits, my tabs down as much as possible. Otherwise I get overwhelmed. All right, so now let's set the provider, and the provider is going to be equal to YouTube, because these are all YouTube videos. See, the reason I was thinking for a second then is it would be nice to be able to have a mixture of YouTube, Vimeo, and other providers. But it's going to be too much work for now, and so I figured, hey, let's just leave it at YouTube for now. Okay, so we've got created at, let's say, faker, date, time. Oh, what kind of a date time does it create, though? We want to have a JavaScript. I'm not sure if that's going to be a JavaScript datetime object, which is what I want. Okay, let's set this to date time. It's okay, because I think that Laravel handles a lot of date stuff on the back end for me. Yeah, actually, I think it's going to use, what's it called? Blah, 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 blah. Carbon to coerce that anyway. Length, and we're just going to choose a random number here. So let's say random int. Can I do that? Random digit? Is random digit the same as random int? I don't know. We'll test that in a second. Can I add a few more fields here? Sorry, this is taking longer than it should. I don't know. 4,000. Okay, so what's the next thing I want to do? Next, I want to go back into my courses migration. Courses migration, because I think I had a date in here that I didn't set correctly. Oh no, there's no date there. Are they all meant to be strings? Yeah, they're all meant to be strings, so that's fine. Sorry, I thought I might have done something wrong there. All right, so moving along, let's copy all of these and move on to the next file, which I'm pretty sure is our migration, and there it is there. Okay, so let's do some pasting and make this as fast as possible. And now we can say table, most of these will be a string, so we'll say string, and then that. So this will not be nullable, so I can leave it as is. That will not be nullable, I can leave it as is. That will not be nullable, so I'll leave it as is. Not nullable, not nullable. Created at is going to be a date time. Okay, so let's say that as a date time in the database. Is there another one like a time? I remember a while back committing to one way of doing dates, because if you don't do it one way, you end up... It's like called an iOS date. Yeah, iOS date or ISO date. No, what's it called? Yeah, if you commit to using ISO dates, it makes your life a whole lot easier. Yeah, so oh, sweet. Scott has tweeted out this video, so hopefully we'll get a few people coming in now. Oh yeah, there's already a few of you. Hello, everyone. Feel free to send something in the chat. Tell me if I'm doing something stupid, all that kind of stuff, and I can try and fix it up, and we can all get better together. It'll be awesome. All right, so we want to make this an ISO date. So let's say laravel.com, and we'll also look for Laravel ISO. Like I said before, if you commit to ISO dates, then your life becomes so much easier. To carbon objects. All right, so I think this is all actually going to be handled for me. So let's say migrations. This is how you get into the migration part of the docs. And I just want to look at all of the date time related stuff. So we've got date. What's this date time TZ? The data method creates a date time with tie zone. Yeah, so maybe that's what I actually want. It's probably helpful because you might want to know the person's time zone as well. But if I just have a date time, then I don't know what their time zone is. And that could be handy in the future. But is that something that you would store on the user? What do you guys think? Should I store the time zone in the database for when something is created? Like, do we actually care about the time zone of when that was created? Or do we just care of when it was created? And then on the front end, we convert that anyway. Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to use a date time. I don't need to have a date time TZ. All right, so let's finish that tangent and move along. Let's see if this is going to migrate for us now. It doesn't. What have I done wrong? Column already exists, created at. I put created at in twice. No, I haven't. So why is it squawking at me? This is for create lessons table. Oh, you know what? I bet you I migrated and then rolled back or something. So how about we say art db wipe, see if it works this time. No. Let's read the error again. Duplicate column name. Oh, it's because we got timestamps already in here. Oh, but so created at isn't very descriptive, is it? So you suggest using RSS. I've heard using timestamps is also a good practice. Yeah. I used to use timestamps a lot, all over the place. The reason I don't use them, at least on the back end, is because it's extremely, you end up sort of coding yourself into a corner. Actually, even on the front end, you end up in situations where the timestamp doesn't actually know the time zone as well. And so it becomes very difficult to show times in the right time zone. I'm not sure I'm explaining myself properly. Actually, is that even the exact reason? You know what? Let me get some better thoughts around this, and then I'll come back to you guys later. And I'll probably do like a video just on time zone related stuff, because if you don't get it right, it can cause a lot of headaches. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I probably didn't answer that question very well. But it's like, even, you know, either way, it's nice to know that you have the person's time zone as well, so that you can sort of play around with that in the future, and you've got a bit of context. All right, cool. You understand. Awesome. So yeah, we kind of created at. How about we have published at here? Published at. So I'm going to have to change that in a few other places now, but it's totally worth it. What am I doing? I'm all over the place. Let's change this to published at. So we got that in our migration now. What were the other things? We had our model. We won't have to worry about it in the model. In our factory, though, that's what we'll have to worry about it in. So let's go to the lesson factory. And instead of created at, we will say published at. Awesome. All right, so now let's wipe the database again and migrate the database and see if it works. And it does. Cool. Okay, I've got to remember that. Timestamps gives us a created at and updated at. However, it's kind of more raw. Every time you create the actual data point itself, that is updated, whereas publish at for us is going to be when we publish it. So we might create the course, but not actually do anything with it till later on, which is why I want to have that as a separate data point. Yeah, time zones for a particular time, especially date times in the future that need to be met, is very important. Yeah, I remember building an application where basically it was like a webinar-based application, and everybody who was showing up wasn't getting the right things, like it wasn't showing the correct thing on the email side. So in the email itself, it wasn't like changing to the correct time zones, and it was just a nightmare to deal with. All right. So what am I doing next? Come on, Luke, stay on task. If we scroll up, let's have a look at when we created everything. I think the next thing was a seeder. Yep. So we have a seeder. Let's say lesson seeder. And the way we're going to do this is just call the factory. So we call lesson, we get the class, we call factory on the class. We're going to make 10 lessons. And what we actually want to do is we want to say that the lessons are for a certain model. So I think I can just, how do I do this again? This is a really cool new way of doing factories in Laravel, and it makes things really, really clean. No, that didn't work. Factories, database, yeah, model factories. And then it was like for. Yeah, but there's an even more fluent API. Yeah, then we can say like for user and then send in any data we want for that. So what I can actually do is say for, what is it? A lesson has many, for a course. All right, so factory, we're going to make 10 of them, and we're making them for a course, and then it's automatically going to create the course for us behind the scenes whenever we create a new factory. In fact, what I might do is this on the factories, on the course side as well. So let's go to course seeder, and now we're going to say factory, and we're going to make that for a lesson. Okay, and then Laravel's going to do some magic behind the scenes. It's going to say, okay, this is for a lesson. Therefore, while I'm doing this, I'm going to attach some lessons. Can I say for lessons and then say 5? I think I can do that. Let's have a look. For user. Okay, so I'm not seeing it. There's like a for many or... Oh, here we go. Has tags. So instead of has tags, we can say has lessons and say that it has 5 lessons. All right, we're going to test that in a second anyway. First, we actually need to set up the relationships before that's going to work. In fact, let's go ahead and do that now. Which reminds me, I've forgotten something. If we go to the lesson table, we want to make sure that a lesson actually knows what its course is. So how about this? However, we probably want it set up so that a lesson can belong to more than one course. Because, do I want to do that? Do I want to do that? No, it adds another level of complexity, and I'm not sure I'd ever actually want to do that anyway. Let me just think. Would you ever have a lesson on multiple courses? You know what? If I did that, I might want a different description anyway, so I would probably just create another lesson with the same video and attach it. So then I can have that lesson in the context of the other course. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna totally ignore that thought for now. Okay, so I think what I can do now is I can say table. How do you do this? It's called like foreign ID for. Here we go. So I want to create a foreign ID for the course so we can pass through the course class. And I think that's all I need to do. And then we'll also say constrained. This is super cool. This is going to do a lot of stuff for us. So basically what it does is it gives this lesson a foreign ID, which is automatically going to be set to course ID, and then it's going to set up the foreign constraints for us. So how cool is that? Laravel makes this super simple. And before I talk too soon, let's see if we can wipe the database and actually run this and see if it works. Migrate. It never works first go when you're using foreign keys. Okay, course not found. I bet you I didn't import that properly. Let's see if it's imported now. It is. Let's wipe the database and try it again. Migrate, and it worked. So let's now jump into that table. So if we now say factory, let's say lesson factory, and we're just going to create a lesson. It now needs to have a course ID, which is why we're getting that problem with the course ID. So now let's try and make a course. Oh, this is so cool. So we'll say course factory, and we're going to say has lessons. No, that's not going to work yet because we haven't actually set up the relationship. So let's come in here and say public function lessons, and then we're going to return this has many app lesson. Oh, we're going to do it this way. Oh, no, it's in models now in the new Laravel. So I believe it's app models lesson. All right, there we go. Gosh, that took me a while, didn't it? And I think the rest of it can be guessed there. So a lesson, a course has many lessons. And if you just hover over this, I can just scroll down here, grab that return statement, and then do this. And let's comment this properly and say a course has many lessons. All right, so this has been a bit long-winded, but now we should be able to run that command. So let's say exit that, tinker again so we get a new version of the application. And now we want to say course factory has lessons, and let's say it has 1 lesson. Okay, so that didn't work. What happened? get related on null. Has lessons. I've created the relationship here. So another thing that I can try and do is just create a course. Factory. Oh my gosh, factory. And then actually create that. And now let's grab the first course. And now let's see if we can give it a lesson. Or let's see if we can just call lessons on it. Okay, cool. So this is the problem here. App models must return a relationship instant. But, oh, I didn't return it. Luke. Ah. All right, let's come back in here and run that command again. Has lessons 1. Ah, it worked. Let's see if we can create it. Whoops. Ah. It looks like it worked. So let's run that one more time. So we now want to create a course, and let's create it with 7 lessons. And so let's actually assign this to a variable. Course is equal to that. And now the course has an ID of 3. Let's open Tinkerwell to actually play around with this. Course find the course with an ID of 3. And there it is. There's that course. Now let's say load. And I'm going to load the lessons. Ah, and it worked. Okay, so this was really important because it makes it very easy for us now to scaffold out our data. I know it's a little bit long-winded, but hopefully you stuck with me throughout all of that, and now we can actually push on. All right, so what's next on our list of things to do? We want to go back to the database seeder. And you know what? I'm going to simplify this. Let's just say, let's use factories like it showed us in the example. So course, and then we'll call factory, and then we'll call has lessons. And how many lessons? Let's just say that it has 5 lessons when we create a course, and we're going to create 3 courses by default. Now check this out. If I say art, migrate, refresh, and we say seed as a flag there, refreshes the database, runs this line of code because it's the seeder, and now if I jump into Tinker, you know what, let's just open Tinkerwell because it's easier. Let's grab all of our courses, or, oh, looks like it didn't work. Database seeder, and then we're saying course, oh, I didn't actually call create on that. All right. I might be getting a little bit nervous. Surely not. Surely not the outgoing Luke who's getting nervous. There we go. Now we're getting all of the courses. We can say, for example, query here and then say with lessons to whack that all in one query and call get on that. And there we go. We can grab all the courses with all of the lessons. So now we have all of the backend modeling done. Woohoo! That was super exciting. Let's move on to the next thing on our to-do list. So we've decided on the course data, we've decided on the lesson data, we've scaffolded the backend, we've done the courses and the lessons on the backend. Now we get to implement Laravel Orion, which is basically the API for those courses and those lessons. So I'm going to open up the Orion docs and start installing that. This framework is freaking insane. Sorry, not framework. It's a, well, what would you call it? Excuse me, burping to myself. Package. This package is insane. It basically allows us to create a really awesome API with very little lines of code, right? That's what our controllers look like for a relationship controller. That is a full-on API with a relationship controller. And if we scroll down here, that's how you would actually like register one of these routes. Did that one line of code there. It's ridiculously simple, and look at all the benefit we get from it. So we got all of these hooks out of the box, but the real power is in searching. We can add scopes, and we can say which scopes are actually available. We can have filters, and we can say which filters are available. We can literally search it, and by the way, I know that the creator of this has plans to add search for other types of things as well. So using like Melia search, I don't know how to say it, and different like searching things on the back end. And, you know, sorting stuff, this is absolutely insane. I'm about to implement it anyway, so you're going to get to actually see this in action. I'm super excited about this. So let's jump out of full screen here, whack that on the side, and and do everything that we need to actually get this installed. I might actually exit some of these screens so that you get a little bit more real estate to look at. Sweet! And I've got Postman ready to go here. By the way, I've got hotkeys. Quick tip. I use this application called AutoKeys. I'm on Ubuntu. And I'm pretty sure this will work on any Linux distribution, or at least most of them. And I have all of these different commands that allow me to switch to applications really quickly. So if you see me switching between screens lightning fast, it's because I have these hotkeys, like there's one here for Postman, which basically means if the Postman window exists, then I want you to make it visible, right? Which is what I just did then. If it doesn't exist, then I want you to actually open Postman for me. So this is like a really, really fast way for me to open applications that I open all of the time and also switch between those applications. So hot tip there. That's why I'm able to go like bam, 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 and just switch between these applications super quickly using hotkeys. And the hotkey I use is Control-Shift-Alt and then a letter on my keyboard because I know that no hotkey is going to have Control-Shift-Alt. So it's kind of like my super hotkeys. I've got one for snipping stuff from the screen, like Control-Shift colon or semicolon, so I can easily like grab part of a screen and then copy that part of the screen, which is like a really super handy one. So when you're like sending snippets to people. All right. Way too much information. Let's move on to implementing Orion. So let's go to the Getting Started guide. We're going to want to install it to begin with, so let's require it. And then we can go ahead and start creating our controllers. And wow, that's it. I literally just install it and start creating controllers. And I'm pretty sure he recommends putting them in /API. Let's see here. Then define. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I remember at some point seeing that he puts them. Yeah, here we go. App HTTP controllers /API. So he doesn't put it straight in the controllers directory. He nests it in an API directory. So that's what I'm going to do as well in this video. So let's go ahead and go to our API app HTTP controllers, and we're going to create a new folder in there called API. And now we're going to create a new file, and let's start with our course controller. So let's say courses, I want to follow how he does it, courses controller.php. And then I'm basically just going to steal this, paste it in there, and instead of a post controller, this is a courses controller, yeah, courses, plural. And let's import course up there. And we're extending a special version of controller that Orion has available to us. All right, so check this out. All we actually need to do is say what our model is. So I'm literally just going to like steal his code here. I need to remember his name. It's called like Alexis or Alexi. I'm sorry if you're watching this. I'm getting your name wrong. You can find him on Tailflow on GitHub. But anyway, so now let's go ahead and add that in there. That's how we create the entire controller. Then we want to go to api.php and actually register the controller. And this is how we do that. We have our route group as API. So I'm basically doing this exactly as he does it. And instead of post controller, this is going to be courses controller. And we change that to courses. And we want to make sure that we're using the Orion facade. Am I doing that correctly? Yes. That's it. That's all we need to do to create this API. However, there's one more thing, or probably a couple of things that I want to point out. By default, I'm going to remove pagination, at least for my testing and until I implement pagination. Because by default, he actually gives you pagination out of the box, which is insanely cool. So, I'm getting a reminder. So let's say it's called like, disable pagination. And I want to disable policies as well. So I think it's called like disable authorization. That might be it for disabling policies. Let's come down here and just double check that. Oh my gosh, he's released the TypeScript Sdk. I didn't know that. That's so exciting. Okay, I got to check that out later on. Oh, so this is basically an SDK that allows you to I could be getting this wrong, but it means that you can create JavaScript models on your front end that work with Orion on the back end. Super, super cool. All right, anyway, security, I think there's a way I can disable it. Yeah, disable authorization, which is fine because I don't really need authorization because I want users when they're not logged in to be able to have access to this route. Now let's go ahead and see if we can actually start testing this. In order to do that, I'm going to say artserve. And now that's the endpoint that we're on. And now we're switching over to Postman. This is the exciting part. I'm going to go to environment and create a new environment. And I'll call this, we'll just call it default for now. And we're going to have a variable here called API URL. Let's make it constants like that. Initial value will be equal to that. And let's set the current value equal to that as well. Okay, so saving that. Next, let's go to collection. And I'm going to create a new collection here. And let's call this courses. And now we want to have a request within courses. And let's just do a get request to get all of the courses. All right. So get courses. And now we can use that API URL variable. Oh, I've forgotten how to do this. API underscore. Pretty sure you do it like this. Oh. API underscore URL. Oh, I haven't had the environment. That's why it's not working. API. Yep, there we go. API URL. And then we want to go to slash. And let's make sure there wasn't a slash by default in here. Nope, there wasn't. Good. So then we want to go to slash. I removed the API end part of it because the way we're going to do it is say API.quasarcast.com. So instead of saying slash API, it's already implied in the domain name. In fact, let's change the API URL because I don't think I need to say artserve anymore. I'm pretty sure I set this up with Nginx. Sorry, guys, I should have been more organized than this. Let's make it https:// API.quasarcast.test. That's the initial value. And let's paste it in there. All right, gosh, so much preamble for this. All right, next thing we want to do is make a GET request to courses, send that through, and it didn't work. I know let's disable SSL verification. And it works! There we go. We've got all of our data. And, by the way, we now have all of the extra Orion cool stuff out of the box as well. In fact, let me just show you the routes. It's pretty exciting when you actually see the routes. Quasarcast, API, art, route, list, condensed. Yeah, so now we've even got batch endpoints. So we can batch create and delete. We can search and we can delete courses. All of that just from what I showed you there. Really, really cool. So next thing I want to do is basically implement this exact same API for lessons as well. And that's going to be super fast now. We can just duplicate this, call that lessons, and then change anything that says course to lesson. And now we just jump into api.php. And then we say here, lessons. That's it. That's literally all I have to do. And now check this out. If we go to let's create another collection here that is called lessons. We can now add a GET request in here to API_URL / lessons. Oh, whoops, that's the name of it. Put it in there. We'll just say lessons. Oh, okay, so what have I done wrong there? The stream. Okay, so it looks like we've got an error log. Let's open Laravel Ray to see what that error was. Class course not found. So let's come back to our lessons controller. Did I import this? Okay. So I need to make sure that's imported. Lessons controller. And there we go. That's imported now. So let's try running that again. Yeah. I mean, isn't it a joke how easy it is to build an API using Orion? Unfreaking believable. And there's actually so many more benefits to this. Since we know our API will always be the same now because we're doing it the quote-unquote Orion way, we can do some awesome stuff on the front end, which is going to be revealed later on in this video. Okay, so that's it. That's it for our API side of things. We've actually completed the next step now. Whoop, cross out of that. Orion has been completed. Scaffold on the front end. So basically, I want to create our classes on the front end as well. So let's jump in here, and we're going back to the front end now, source, and then we'll jump into models, and let's create a new file here. Actually, I'm going to duplicate this one. Oh, no, it looks too busy. Yeah, let's duplicate it. It'll be fine. And let's say course.js, and then I'm going to come down here and delete most of this stuff in here. And we'll set this to courses is going to be what it's called inside of our database. Now let's jump into VuexORM. And let's look for courses here. Oh, sorry, what am I talking about? Now we want to look for how we define a model, including the relationships. So here's an example of how we do fields. Let's do that first. And we'll implement all of those fields. And one of those fields will be the relationship to the lessons as well. All right, so let's just get started to begin with. I'm going to jump out of full screen there. Oh, no, I just put us into full screen. Sorry, my brain's slowing down a little bit. I'll try and kick up the energy. All right, this is the layout that I want. Yeah, I think that's the layout that I want. Cool. Now let's set up the fields for courses. We've got a slug, a title, a color, a caption, an icon. And they're all just going to be null by default, I'm pretty sure. So let's put all of them in there. And that's going to be equal to this dot adder, which is null by default. Save that, and there we go. So now we've basically mimicked all of the fields there. And check this out. I like to add a comment here saying relationships. Now we can add a relationship as well. So a course has many lessons. This is the exciting part. This is where we get to use vuex-orm. And the lesson is going to be this dot has many. And what does it have many of? Lesson. So we're going to have to create that class first. I'm going to duplicate this, call that lesson, change user to lesson. And then in here, I want to change that to course. And let's go back to lesson and make sure this is lessons. Whoops. Cool. All right. So what's next? Has many. And now we can say lesson and import the lesson there. And then we can just say what the ID will be on that, which will be course underscore ID. That's it. Now we'll be able to accept that from the backend and actually insert the data, which will be really cool, I reckon. So that's course. Let's jump into lesson and let's set up the fields for this, and then we'll set up the relationship. So I'm going to grab all of this all the way down. Oh, actually, we do need the ID as well. There we go. This dot adder null. And let's jump into that other file because I don't think I had the ID here. No, I didn't. So the ID is going to be equal to null. Okay, so coming back here, we've got all the right fields now. I always just leave them as null. You can do stuff like setting them as a string, and you can say this dot like string or this dot number. But I just leave them as a null attribute by default. They're almost always going to be just accepting data from the backend anyway. All right, so let's do the relationship here. Really, really simple to do. Relationships, and now I can say course, and I'll say this dot belongs to the course, and in order to find that course, we use the course ID. So that means I've got to remember that we also have a course ID on this as well. Now let's go ahead and register those models. So let's jump into the store, index, and this is where we're doing it. So we're getting the user model there. I might have this in a separate section. User, course, lesson. Course, lesson. And as you're going to see, once you've done all of this stuff, like sort of all of the setup, it becomes so much easier to build things faster in the future, especially when I start adding generators. So later on, I'm actually going to use a tool called Hygen to create generators where I can basically create models within seconds rather than within 20 minutes like you've seen in this video. All right, so they're registered in the database, and I think we're actually ready to see what this looks like. I'm going to take my headphones off of my ears, and hopefully you can all still hear me okay. You're going to have to get used to this. All right, so next thing, what are we up to now? So that's all registered in the database. Next, we actually want to test if all of this works. So let's jump into Quasarcast, refresh the page. And we haven't got any errors. That error is just because we're trying to fetch the user by default to check if we actually have a user logged in. And now if I come over here and I go to Vuex, and let's just load the base state. Here we go. We've got courses and we've got lessons. Now we want to actually be able to fetch those courses and those lessons. So let's just make it that when you load the courses page, it fetches the courses by default. So let's jump into courses page. And have I got a mounted hook here? No, I don't yet. So let's build it. Mounted. And now let's think about the API we want here. I want to be able to say course.$get. And that's it. That's all I want to do to get my courses. And then by default, it's then going to, pull everything in from the Vuex store, which would be absolutely awesome. So let's jump into course.js and build that out, but then we're going to abstract this later on. So let's build a static function, which is going to return Axios. And then on Axios, we're going to say .get. Oh, this static function needs to actually have a name. Static $get. What am I doing wrong here? Oh, got to make sure my syntax is correct. Oh, it messed up some syntax over here. Oh gosh, what have I done? If I comment that out, does it fix it? Oh, that needs to be like that. And that needs to be like... Okay, there we go. So when we call $get, we return axios.get. And we want to have an API URL. So for now, let's just say process.env.api URL. And then when that is done, we want to grab the response. And then we want to say course.insert. We want to insert a course. And the data for that is going to be response. Whoops. Response.data. .data. Oh, what's it doing here? It's importing something. Yeah. Anyway, there we go. And then I'm going to return response, just in case we want to do something else with the response later on. That means that if we call .then on this, we're going to have access to the response. All right, so let's have a look at what that looks like. If we go to the courses page, we should be able to now say course.$get. Oh, and we can't just say API URL. We also need to add the course part to it as well. Like this /courses. And I think that might be it. Let's refresh the page and see what happens. All right, what is our error? Course is not defined. I thought I could do that. I thought I could call course if it's sitting within the... All right, maybe not. Let's call this .insert. Actually, that won't work either, I don't think. I have to call this .constructor .insert. All right, what's our error now? Course is not defined. Courses page. Where am I getting the error? Oh, okay. It's because the error isn't here. That was a false positive. It's because I'm not importing it here. So let's make sure that's imported by saying import course from models/course. Cool. Come back, refresh the page. We don't get the user successfully, but let's see if we got those courses. Oh my gosh, it actually worked. How cool is that? Now check this out. Oh, it hasn't been inserted properly. All right, so what I might do is console.log that to see what it actually looks like behind the scenes. I spelled that wrong. It's meant to be response. And there we go. That's probably the reason that didn't work. Let's come back here. Looks like some records were inserted. So let's load the state now. Ah, I'm so excited. And there we go. They've been inserted into the store. So check this out. Now I can very easily spit that data out. One way that you can actually do this is, and I like to do this sometimes for simple scenarios. I'm basically making course available on my data property here. And now I can do this. If we scroll up, how about before any of that, we have a pre-tag just to see what our data looks like. Pre. And check this out. I can literally just say course.org to fetch all of the course data. And it works. However, it looks like those fields aren't being mapped in properly, so I'm doing something wrong. Let's jump in here. So the problem is the way I'm setting the entities on course.js. Oh, it shouldn't be static there. That should be entities. I think that's correct. Oh no, fields. Entities, no, fields. Okay, what have I done now? Let's come back here and actually check the docs there. Yeah, static fields. Oh, all right. Yes! How cool is that? So look at how beautiful this API is. And I'm going to make it even prettier if you just give me the time. Now, if we want to grab all of our courses, we just say course.$get. So ridiculously simple. And if we then want to see all of those courses, because they're automatically going to be put into the store, we can then just set the course on the data property. And then if we come up here, we can just say, where is it? Course.org. Yeah, course.org to spit out that data. And check this out. Course.query, we can then say, for example, take 1. And then I think I have to call that get on that as well. Get. Save that and refresh the page. And see if that works. Now, what was it? I think there's like a method called take or take. The old throats. Retrieving data. Here we go. There's all this like query-related stuff. I can't remember what it is. All right, I don't want you to have to sit around and watch me do this forever. Oh, you can call a last on it to get the last one. But we got all of these like where queries that we can do on our data now. Insanely cool. And you can build up that query gradually and then call it like at the last minute, which is also cool. Exists, I think that might be new. That's really cool. Order by, yeah, here we go, limit. That's what I wanted to see. So now I can just say limit to 1 record, and then it only spits out 1 record, or like 2 records. And then you can just get the 2 records on the front end. How cool is that? All right, so let's go back to normal. I'm going to get rid of this. Next thing I need to do is actually tie all of this in to my front end. So what are we doing currently? Currently, how are we getting our course data? Slug courses. So basically we're pulling it from data, which is down here, and then we're spitting it out. So let's change that. In fact, we can just get rid of courses. And I don't think we need categories at all. Categories? No, we don't even use categories. It was just a thought that I had in the past. But now, courses can be a computed property rather than just raw data. We can just say courses return course.org. That's it. And it works. Now it's pulling our courses from the backend. How unbelievably freaking cool is that? And now we can say, for example, art tinker, and let's just create another course. Oh, we'll probably have to use a factory. Factory, let's just create 10 of them because this is fun. And now if I refresh the page, check it out. All of those courses are now showing up. Some of them got the gray color, it looks like. But isn't that amazing? And the API looks really, really cool. And by the way, this is all just the work of others. I'm not saying that I'm amazing. I'm just stringing it all together. VuexORM, Orion, Quasar, all these amazing tools make this an absolute breeze. Now, the next thing we want to do is the exact same thing with lessons, but I might not cover that in this video. Let's just go through our to-do list and see what else I had, because I'd rather show you more cool stuff and then just do that in my own time. Scaffold on the front end. Yeah, we've already done that. So we've made a call to Orion. And it says, if I've got time, implement VuexORM REST. Now, I'll tell you what I mean by that. If I come up here to my lesson class, not my lesson class, my course class. Now, I don't want to have to implement this every single time that I am creating a new model. So wouldn't it be cool if we could just say, hey, like create a plugin for VuexORM that automatically creates the get, the update, the delete, the bulk update, the search, all of those requests for us, so I can literally just delete this code and everything will still work. And now all of my models going forward can create, update, delete, edit, like just whatever. I'll be able to do all of that stuff for free. So what I'd have to do then is create a plugin for that. And I've actually already created a plugin, but I'm going to give you an idea of what that plugin might look like by writing a little bit of the code for you. So what's the best way to do this? Should I create like a new file? Oh, I did. Ross! Oh my gosh, Ross is my friend from school. And somehow he knew that I was doing a YouTube stream. How you doing, buddy? We're just talking about some coding stuff here. Yeah, okay, so what was I talking about? Yeah, so basically we want to make it so that we can do those requests for every single model. So what I might do for now is just create like a new folder called, we won't create a folder there. Let's just go into the store and create a plugin called VuexORM REST plugin. And then later on, I'll extract this into something a little bit more sensical. So let's say export default and make that a function. And I think we want to accept in-store. Yeah, this is completely out of my league. Ross is not a programmer. All right, so now I need to actually find some of my code for this because, oh no, we can probably just check the VuexORM docs for creating a plugin. No, I'm going to steal some of my own code here. GitHub.com, AgriPath, which is the company I work for. And now we want to use VuexORM REST, I believe is what it's called. And I just want a little bit of code to remember how to install the plugin to begin with. Yeah, all right. Okay, so that's not the file. We want the file that actually installs it. Let's go back here. Oh no, I accidentally committed a call file. Yeah, dude, come say hi. April 3rd. Oh, will I be around? I'm not sure I'm actually going to be around then. I think I might be going on holidays. All right, sorry guys, my brain's a bit tired. We've been doing this for like an hour and a half now. I need to kick it back into gear. All right, so here we go. Export default. This is the part that I wanted to actually see. And I'm basically just going to grab a little bit of this code here to make my life easier. But then we're going to drastically simplify it. All right, so this is how we install it. We take the model and then we create a config. I'm not going to create a config in this video. We're going to keep it very simple. I'm going to set the API URL manually and we'll create a config later. Don't need that either. Yeah, so now we can start defining properties on model. So I'll show you what I mean. Now we can say object define property on model, but not model.prototype, just model called $get. And now we can actually pass through that get function. So let's go back to course, do some Control-D'ing here to grab that again. And we just want the function itself. Whew. All right, it's getting a little bit messy now. There we go. What am I missing? I'm missing like, it looks like I'm missing like another something. Oh, I've gotten in like, in that hell where you nest things too far. Okay, and that's for the install. So why has it got a problem with this? Expected a comma. Okay, because this is accepting an object. No, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't mean it should expect a comma there. Oh, that should be a closed parentheses. Whew. All right. Sorry, guys. That was a bit of a mess. All right. So we're defining a get property, which is going to grab API, and instead of courses, we want to be able to say, I think I can just say this dot constructor dot entity. Okay, because if you remember, I have to set the entity here, and that entity is going to be same as our API URL. All right, so now I can delete that, and hopefully it's just going to work. But now we actually need to use that plugin as well. So how do we install a plugin? We want a section about, yeah, plugins. And to actually use the plugin, I think it's like Vuex. Yeah, here we go, use. All right, so then we can jump into our store, index, and actually use that plugin. And the plugin is called VuexORM. Can you actually, like, I can hear my brain shutting down. But we need to get to the end of this. We're so close. I doubt that's just going to work straight off the bat, but let's see what happens. Okay, get is not a function. So let's see what I'm doing wrong here. Object defined, is it defined property? It might be something different. For a static, I basically want to mimic a static property. Yeah, define property, that's for getting the API URL. For find, what did I do? Oh, so I just said model dot and then that thing. Okay, so it's actually simpler than this. We can just say model dot $get is equal to that function. What have I done wrong now? We don't need that closed parentheses anymore. And let's try refreshing the page. All right, what is it now? Axios is not defined. That's good. Oh my gosh, that means we're almost there. Import Axios from Axios. Oh, we're almost there. So it's creating a request, but it's saying undefined. So for a GET request, how do we do this? We want to be able to say, I might just be this dot entity. Yeah, because we're on the static property now. So let's try that. Okay, that's not working. How about we console.log this? What did I have before? This dot constructor. So let's console.log this just to see what we get. How did I do this before? I always get like confused with this kind of stuff. So we want to actually call this dot constructor thing. See, this is where the limits of my JavaScript knowledge starts hitting us. I can't believe 2 of you are actually still watching now. You must really want to see what's going to happen. Okay, so yeah, I remember this getting like super messy. So let's have a look at $get. And then let's have a look at the GET request. And the answer should be sitting in there. As you can tell, I built this out with a lot of trial and error. So this is using a normal function. That might have something to do with it, rather than the other way of doing a function. Okay, then it calls this dot API URL. All right, so let's have a look at API URL then and see how that works, which would be this one here. Oh, I spelled this wrong. No way, don't tell me. Oh, yes, that was spelled wrong. So now we say dot entity. Yeah, thanks, mate. Thanks for like staying this far. I'm impressed that you made it to the end. And let's turn this into a normal function. Function. Oh man. Might have to just end up doing this in my own time. Axios.get. We're sitting within this function. Oh, you know what? I bet you it's because I then need to return a function. Yeah, that would be the problem. So let's actually return a function like this. Okay, and then whack all of that in there. And now that should give us the correct context. So if I call this dot constructor dot entity, let's just try this dot entity. Now I'm getting nothing at all. Return an object that is then going to return Axios. And so that should be console logged. Should it not? Console.log here. Oh no, because now we've got like a function returning a function. Oh, you know what? I'm going to do this behind the scenes and then just do like a quick live stream video later on because I don't want to keep you guys waiting too long. My brain is dead. I'm going to take a quick break and then do a quick live stream showing the solution to this problem. Thank you so much for sticking with me throughout this entire stream. For those of you that could make it through to the end, follow me on Twitter if you like. I think I'm at Luke Diebold. I need to remember this stuff now. At Luke Diebold to follow me on Twitter. And yeah, if you like these streams, hit subscribe. I'd love for you to join me next time too. And if you've benefited from Quasar, then please donate. And don't wait, do it now, because donations allow the team to spend more time on Quasar, on this wonderful framework. And I personally find it mind-boggling that this entire project is available to us for free. Each component has been meticulously crafted over the years so that you and I can build stunningly beautiful websites that people love. And that's pretty amazing, right? So make sure you donate to them. If you can afford it, it's totally worth it. They'll be incredibly grateful. I'll be grateful because it means that they'll have more time to build a project that I love. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the